Welcome to Swordbox Ministries. The key goes a bit deeper in today's addiction series video. Speaking from personal experience, he lays it on the line. Our verse for the day is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Welcome back to Swordbox. Today we're going to shift gears just slightly and get a little bit more specific about certain addictions. And I think the best place to start is where 4,000 American kids start every day for the very first time. They pick up that first cigarette and take a puff. Several studies have shown that of all addictive behaviors, cigarette smoking is the one most likely to become established during adolescence. In my early years of childhood, I lived a very sheltered life. I wasn't exposed to many things. In fact, compared to the things my own son has been exposed to, it was night and day. Growing up in the Deep South, we moved often, but usually to smaller country towns, and basically the churches that my dad ministered in were very small churches, and we usually lived on the church property. So a very sheltered life is what I lived at least through age 9. I never remember seeing any alcohol or any drugs during those early years, but I did see plenty of tobacco. Many of the men, even at church, even deacons, would go out between classes at church or whatever, and after church or before church, and smoke their pipes or smoke cigarettes or chew tobacco. Of course, it appealed to me, and it appealed to most of the younger boys at some point. And while I didn't try cigarettes until a few years later, I did try other forms of tobacco. And even though I really didn't like it, it always kept its appeal towards me. And I think smoking is something that we see so often and we grow up with that it really just seems normal. And I can remember my great-grandmother who always had a cigarette lit anytime you went to her house, and she died of natural causes in her 90s, just reaffirming in my own mind that it's not such a big deal. Later in life, I did get hooked and struggled with quitting. What a strong, powerful addiction nicotine is. Today, there is a very strong movement in our culture to show the dangers of smoking and to try to limit where people can smoke. But really, it's nothing new. Bishop Bartholomew, who lived from 1474 to 1566, wrote, "The fashion of smoking caught on among the colonists, and when they were asked why they did it, their only answer was that they could not do without it anymore." Mogul Emperor of Kurdistan, early 17th century, wrote this, "As the smoking of tobacco has taken very bad effect upon the health and mind of many persons, I ordered that no one should practice the habit. My brother Shah Abbas, also being aware of its evil effects, has issued a command against the use of it in Iran." The sentence that was carried out on people who violated these new commands was that their lips were split and the people who were supplying the tobacco were executed. Today in America, we really don't have that kind of restriction on tobacco. It didn't work anyway. Tobacco use has continued throughout the centuries, and every attempt seems to fail at this addictive habit. James I of England said of tobacco, "A custom loathsome to the eye, hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, dangerous to the lungs, and in the back stinking fume thereof, nearest resembling the horrible Stygian smoke of the pit that is bottomless." Now that's a pretty strong description of a very passionate dislike for tobacco. Really, we all know tobacco use is hazardous to our health, causes cancer and emphysema. The risks are serious, and yet once we're hooked, often the risks are ignored due to the addiction to the nicotine that's found in the tobacco. It's really strange when we stop and look at it. It's really quite nasty, and you don't immediately get addicted. It's an acquired taste, as well as becoming addictive only after prolonged use. It really is a peer pressure addiction that comes from curiosity, wanting to fit in, or wanting to be cool. Young kids by nature can be spontaneous and try things that they never planned to try. The frontal lobe of their brains that controls decision making is still developing, and so it's not hard to understand why so many kids try smoking. But we have made it so easy, and cigarettes are absolutely sold everywhere. They're easy to get. Sadly, many teens carry an addiction to nicotine into their adult lives as it grips onto their body and to their minds. With the exception of abortion, smoking is the leading preventable cause of death in the United States. And while marijuana is often called the gateway drug, I would say tobacco use is often the sidewalk that leads us up to that gate. It's the first taste of the forbidden fruit for many kids. It's illegal for them, it's a stimulant, it's a drug, and it has a very big appeal. In order to stop this addiction for kids, like any other thing, we're going to need some help. My advice is always, if you're struggling with that, confess it to God. Confess where you're at. Admit that you're hooked and you need some help. And begin to pray each day for His strength. And consciously make the effort to slow down. Reclaim the self-control that you once had. And don't just give up. And then allow the people around you, to help you, your mom or your dad or family member or someone at church, someone else that can pray for you and help you. Because the longer you stay hooked, the harder the hook, the deeper the hook sinks into you. Different things work for different people. But I believe God can and will deliver anyone who is willing. So be open to try whatever God leads you to do, and don't settle for the lie that you can't quit. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Once we begin a harmful addictive behavior, it really does pave the way for trying others. And that is always a road that is best avoided. God bless you. We will see you back here